Greetings, Scotty Reed here, Black Talk Radio News, and this is a video response to a comment that was sent to me via Twitter. I posted an article about Joe Scarborough getting mauled by Ted Cruz in the gun control debate. First, let me just make it clear. I'm neither a Republican nor a Democrat. I'm only a Republican or a Democrat in the state of North Carolina, depending upon which closed primary I want to vote in. So my political affiliation changes depending upon which primary I want to vote for and get a person, to get whatever the office they're seeking, or to get the nomination of whatever party. So I'm not a partisan person. Liberal arguments, I don't pay them no mind. Conservative talking points, I don't pay them no mind. I'm an independent thinking black man, and I think for myself. I can read and comprehend what I'm reading and come to my own conclusions. So I posted that article, and it was a good article, and I don't like Ted Cruz at all. I really don't like Ted Cruz. But the facts are the facts, and Ted Cruz laid down some facts concerning the Supreme Court, or just the courts in general, and what they have said about the Second Amendment as it pertains to assault rifles and quote-unquote AR-15s. And there's a lot of deception coming from the left on this issue. AR-15 is not used in war. They use M16s, okay? And they are no more powerful than other rifles that you can purchase for hunting. So there's a lot of deception coming from the left on that. So Jetta replied to me in saying that the Second Amendment was ratified to preserve slavery. And that's true in part. Again, I'm all about the truth. I ain't about opinions. I'm not about, having a certain viewpoint to match my political leanings or whatnot. No, I'm about getting to the facts. I'm about getting to the truth. So the Second Amendment, now I don't know if I agree with this article saying that it was ratified to preserve slavery. I did read the article, and, I can go ahead and concede that perhaps one of the states did put that forward in order for them to join, America or become one of the states and whatnot, and that was the Second Amendment rights. Now, of course, we know that these militias were set up to put down slave rebellions, and I shouldn't have said that, to put down rebellions of the victims of slavery. So, I mean, that's a given. That's a given. We know that. But that's not the only reason they were set up. Back then, there was a lot of fighting going on between the French, the British, and the American colonists. Not to mention, you had Native Americans who would rightfully attack these colonists for encroaching on their land. So that's why back then they wanted all white males to be armed and be part of the militia. But I will concede that it was his primary mission was to put down any rebellions by victims of slavery. But I don't see how that applies to the gun control debate today. It doesn't apply today. Now, I am a new abolitionist, meaning I know that slavery was never abolished. All you got to do is read the 13th Amendment, and I would say at least have a 12th grade reading comprehension, perhaps, maybe, I don't know. But read that 13th Amendment and you'll see there's a exception clause as punishment for crime. So technically, the United States never abolished slavery, so I just want to make sure everybody's clear on that. Don't take my word for it. Take the U.S. Constitution's word for it. But here is where I disagree, and I feel like this argument holds no water when you want to interject. Hey, Second Amendment was ratified, for slave patrols and to preserve slavery. Well, slavery was never abolished, so let's work on ending slavery. But also, gun control has a history of racism in this country. Just the other day on a different topic, I shared the 1705 Virginia slave codes. Now, every black person, every melanated person was not enslaved. The majority of them were enslaved that was on this continent, but you had a pretty sizable population of free black colonists as well. All right. They, in that 1705 Virginia Slave Code, not only did it allow for the apprehension of runaway victims of slavery and some other things, but one of the main things that it did was it stripped free black people of their rights to bear arms. And Virginia isn't the only colony to pass that racist gun control legislation to keep black folks from obtaining firearms to defend themselves, as well as there was a fear that these free black people would use those arms to unite with victims of slavery and join in the rebellion. You know, like we can say the Civil War, I agree with my abolitionist comrade Max Parthas, that the Civil War basically was a rebellion. When you consider the Union could not win the war against the South, against the Confederates, without the help of free black people and enslaved victims alike who had been liberated. After the Emancipation Proclamation, it was only when they entered the war did the Union win. But, you know, lawyers are tricky, and we know Lincoln was a lawyer, and he was also a racist who wanted to deport all black people. You know, just a little side note on the immigration debate right here. But he was a racist, and he conceded slavery as punishment for crime to the former Confederates. Now, during the so-called period of Jim Crow, during that period, you still had legislation that sought to keep guns out of black people's hands. That's gun control. So telling me something I already know, that, you know, the Second Amendment was to arm militias, to also arm the slave patrols. I mean, yeah, I know that, but let's look at all of it. You know, it's more than that. So gun control has been historically just as racist in this country. You know, did you ever hear of the NRA or any other white Second Amendment group come to the defense of the Black Panther Party for self-defense when Ronald Reagan passed that gun control legislation? Did the NRA come to the defense of the Black Guard in North Carolina? You know, even though they had a charter, they had to get that NRA charter through deception and pretending to be middle-class white people. Did the Deacons for Defense also need it? No. Did they get any assistance from these Second Amendment groups like the NRA? No, they did not. So, you know, gun control has always been racist historically in this country as it pertains to black people. All right, this has been Scotty Reed, Black Talk Radio News. Peace and blessings to all.